Diamond baguettes. Yep. This is a flawless piece.
A Rolex store manager has been caught in a brazen lie about the origin of one of his watches.
Check this out. Factory mother of pearl, white gold.
That Rolex on your wrist, the one you saved for years to buy, the timepiece that whispers Swiss precision with every tick. Well, what if everything you've been told about where it comes from is a carefully crafted illusion?
So how do they get away with calling it Swiss-made if most of it is manufactured in China?
When you think Swiss-made, you probably imagine skilled artisans in picturesque workshops, painstakingly assembling timepieces against a backdrop of alpine mountains. That idealized image has been carefully cultivated by luxury watch brands for decades. But how do brands get away with this?
Well, it's a little loophole where as long as 60% of the total cost of construction happens in Switzerland, they can call it Swiss-made. Almost all of the movement's the thing that makes this thing tick, is done in China. And then they'll take one component that might be a little bit more expensive. Usually it's something like the rotor, the thing that makes it automatically wind. And they'll just slap that on and they'll make sure that that is 60% of the cost.
That's right. Under Swiss law, a watch can proudly wear the Swiss-made label as long as 60% of the production cost occurs in Switzerland. But here's where it gets interesting. That cost can include design, corporate overhead, and marketing, not just the physical assembly of your timepiece. This means a watch could theoretically be 80% manufactured in Shenzhen and still be labeled Swiss-made if it's shipped to Switzerland for final touches and enough of the costs are attributed to Swiss operations. In fact, as the video reveals, the manufacturing requirement might be even more minimal than you'd expect.
Now, it also has to be manufactured in Switzerland, but what does that actually mean? It just means that they have to put this little crystal on here, the lens of the watch. As long as they slap that on in Switzerland, they can call it a Swiss watch.
And the numbers are staggering. Shenzhen alone produces about 4 million watches annually, with over 90% of the world's watches passing through at some point, including components for luxury brands like Rolex, which produces around 1.5 million watches a year. The implications are clear. While you might be paying for what you think is exclusive Swiss craftsmanship, the reality could be a complex global supply chain with significant Chinese manufacturing. The leaked videos that sent tremors through the luxury watch industry show scenes that most Rolex owners would find hard to believe. Factory floors in Shenzhen featuring high-efficiency production lines with workers assembling what appear to be Rolex watches. These aren't the romantic artisan workshops that luxury marketing has led us to imagine. Instead, they resemble tech factories, the same type that produce our smartphones and laptops. Workers filming these production lines revealed something even more shocking. These facilities appear to be creating both authentic luxury watches and their knockoff counterparts. One particularly eye-opening claim from the footage, a CF Rolex from Shenzhen costs about $120 USD, yet still functions, compared to a retail Rolex at $15,000. That's more than a 100-fold markup. Even more shocking, one worker stated that watches can be made for just 1% of their $20,000 retail price, highlighting a staggering cost disparity that would make any Rolex owner question their purchase. What's particularly damning about these videos is the apparent confidence of the workers filming them. They don't seem concerned about repercussions, suggesting either a disconnect from the brands they claim to manufacture for or a shift in power dynamics as China's manufacturing sector grows more confident in asserting its role in global supply chains. The production lines themselves tell a story. They're modern, efficient, and nothing like the romanticized vision of Swiss watchmaking. Instead of artisans hunched over benches with loops, we see assembly line workers at stations, moving pieces through a highly organized production process that maximizes output. But not everyone agrees with these explosive claims. Rolex has consistently maintained that all official Rolex watches are designed, manufactured, and assembled within Switzerland, adhering to the stringent Swiss-made label. So who's telling the truth? To understand today's controversy, we need to look at the evolution of the Swiss-made label itself. The designation wasn't always as permissive as it is today. Originally, Swiss regulations were much stricter, requiring nearly complete Swiss manufacturing. But as global competition increased and manufacturing costs in Switzerland rose, the regulations were gradually relaxed. The current 60% rule represents a compromise between maintaining the prestige of Swiss watchmaking and allowing brands to remain competitive in a global market. The result? A legal framework that allows for substantial foreign manufacturing while preserving the valuable Swiss-made designation that consumers trust and covet. This erosion of standards happened largely out of public view, with watch brands maintaining their marketing narratives of exclusive Swiss craftsmanship, even as their supply chains globalized. It wasn't until social media and smartphones made it possible to document and share what happens on factory floors around the world that these practices came to light. And the Rolex case isn't isolated. Similar patterns have been documented across luxury categories, suggesting an industry-wide practice of obscuring manufacturing origins while charging premium prices based on perceived exclusivity. Adding fuel to the controversy, a former Swatch Group employee claimed they were fired for exposing on TikTok that parts for brands like Omega, part of the Swatch Group, are made in China. According to this insider, components including cases, dials, hands, and even diamond-studded elements are manufactured in China before being shipped to Switzerland for assembly. This testimony is particularly damaging because it comes from someone who allegedly worked within the industry, not just casual observers or social media commentators. What makes this whistleblower account compelling is the specific details provided. The claim isn't merely that some production happens in China, but rather a detailed breakdown of which components travel which routes before reaching consumers' wrists. This level of specificity suggests insider knowledge that would be difficult to fabricate. And in the aftermath of being fired, this whistleblower claims to have nothing left to lose, creating the perfect conditions for truth-telling that the brands would prefer to keep hidden. But this isn't the only luxury industry facing such allegations. A similar pattern has emerged across the luxury goods sector.
One TikTok video by now viral @SendBags2 claims that a whopping 80% of your beloved made in Italy or crafted in France bags are actually made in China. Yes, China.
Bags will appear at their boutiques as made in Italy or made in France.
The video, which has been viewed over 10 million times, features a man spilling the luxury tea.
These revelations have led some industry watchers to question whether luxury brands across categories, from watches to handbags, are selling customers a carefully crafted image rather than the authentic craftsmanship they claim. The pattern is strikingly similar across luxury categories. Claim European craftsmanship, charge premium prices, but secretly manufacture in China to maximize profits. It's a formula that has worked exceptionally well until now. Perhaps the most disturbing claim from the viral videos is that modern Rolex replicas are nearly indistinguishable from genuine watches, using the same materials, tools, and sometimes even the same factories. According to these sources, high-end replicas even come complete with NFC cards, warranty booklets, and internal chips that scan to Rolex's database, making them virtually impossible for the average consumer to identify as fake. The replica industry in China has evolved dramatically over the past decade. What was once a market for obvious knockoffs has transformed into a sophisticated operation producing what insiders call super clones, replicas so accurate that even experienced jewelers can be fooled without specialized equipment. These aren't your typical Canal Street knockoffs. Modern luxury replicas are manufactured with precision machinery, quality materials, and meticulous attention to detail. Some high-end replicas even use genuine ETA movements, the same Swiss mechanical movements used in many authentic luxury watches, further blurring the line between genuine and fake. The replica industry has even developed its own grading system, with terms like AAA, super clone, and mirror quality, indicating how closely a replica matches the genuine article. The highest grade replicas are sold for hundreds rather than thousands of dollars, but offer nearly identical appearance and functionality. If true, this raises troubling questions. If replicas are made in the same factories using the same materials, what exactly are customers paying the premium for? Is it truly superior craftsmanship, or simply the brand name and marketing? However, numerous sources, including the watch company, firmly state that a real Rolex timepiece is not made in China. If you find any Rolex box that states it's made in China, you should know that it is not an original. So we have conflicting narratives. On one side, viral videos and whistleblowers claiming widespread production in China. On the other, official statements and industry sources insisting on Swiss exclusivity. The fallout from these revelations has been swift and significant. Reports indicate Rolex has reduced prices on several core models as a permanent strategy shift due to growing awareness, with resellers noting slower sales and collectors hesitating, leading to inventory pileups. The secondary market, where Rolex watches have traditionally commanded premiums far above retail, has been particularly affected. Dealers who once bought Rolex watches as investments are facing uncertainty about future values, and some are reportedly trying to offload inventory before prices fall further. This market disruption extends beyond Rolex to other luxury watch brands, as consumers increasingly question the value proposition of all Swiss-made timepieces. If Rolex, often considered the gold standard of luxury watches, is facing scrutiny, no brand is immune. The internet, particularly social media, has shattered a veil of secrecy that once protected luxury brands. When Chinese workers can film production lines and upload footage that reaches millions within days, maintaining carefully crafted illusions becomes nearly impossible. This transparency has led to increased skepticism among consumers, with some questioning whether the premium prices of luxury watches are justified if significant parts are manufactured in the same facilities as much cheaper alternatives. The implications go beyond just watches. As more luxury categories face similar exposures, we could be witnessing a fundamental shift in how consumers perceive luxury goods and what they're willing to pay for them. The mystique of European craftsmanship, a cornerstone of luxury marketing, may never recover from these revelations. Despite the swirling controversy, Rolex's stance remains clear and unwavering. The company's official website states, "From creation to final testing, Rolex has integrated the entirety of its production exclusively on its 4 sites in Switzerland." Rolex operates several facilities in Switzerland, including locations in Geneva and Bienne, where they claim all design, manufacturing, and assembly take place. Recent expansions, such as a new factory in Boulay set to open in 2029, further emphasize their commitment to Swiss production. These facilities reportedly employ over 9,000 workers in Switzerland, with the new Bulla factory expected to create an additional 2,000 jobs. This significant investment in Swiss manufacturing infrastructure seems to contradict claims of widespread Chinese production. A closer look at Rolex's stated manufacturing process reveals a meticulous attention to detail that has built the brand's reputation over decades. At their Geneva headquarters, they claim to conduct final assembly, testing, quality control, and certification. In Plan-les-Ouates, they develop and produce watch cases and bracelets, including casting gold alloys. Their Cherbourg facility focuses on dials and gem setting, while the Bienne location is where movements are developed and manufactured. This elaborate Swiss infrastructure raises an important question. If Rolex is already manufacturing extensively in China, why invest billions in expanding Swiss facilities? It's a point that supporters of Rolex's official narrative emphasize strongly, but critics argue this could be misdirection. While final assembly and certain components may indeed be produced in Switzerland, the viral videos suggest that significant portions of the manufacturing process occur elsewhere, particularly in China. The truth may lie somewhere in between. Rolex might maintain significant Swiss operations, particularly for high-value components and final assembly, while sourcing certain parts from China, all while technically complying with Swiss-made requirements. The viral controversy has put Rolex authorized dealers, ADs, in an uncomfortable position. If parts of Rolex watches are indeed manufactured in China before final assembly in Switzerland, are store managers and sales associates informing customers of this fact? Or are they perpetuating the idealized image of complete Swiss production? Consumer reviews suggest potential issues with transparency. A Trustpilot review from February 15, 2025, mentioned a Beverly Hills store manager giving conflicting information about watch components, suggesting potential dishonesty in customer communications. Additionally, allegations of broader dishonest practices have surfaced. A lawsuit against CD Peacock Inc., a Rolex authorized dealer, included claims of racketeering and fraudulent sales practices, including violations of the Rolex distribution agreement. While this lawsuit didn't specifically address misrepresentations about watch origins, it highlights potential ethical issues within the Rolex retail network that could extend to what customers are told about where their watches come from. The retail experience is where the luxury illusion is most directly maintained. In elegant boutiques with champagne service and white-gloved sales associates, customers are immersed in a world of exclusivity and craftsmanship. This carefully orchestrated environment makes it difficult to ask tough questions about manufacturing origins and easy for sales associates to perpetuate marketing narratives rather than manufacturing realities. Former employees of luxury retailers have described the pressure to maintain brand stories, even when they conflict with known facts. Sales training often focuses heavily on brand heritage and craftsmanship narratives, with little transparency about actual production methods or locations. The revelations have sparked intense debate among luxury watch enthusiasts. Many feel deceived by branding practices that emphasize Swiss craftsmanship while potentially relying on significant Chinese manufacturing. An X-post highlighted a stark markup, noting, "Did you know that $38,000 Hermes handbag was actually made in China for a cost of $1,400? While this example references handbags rather than watches, it reflects the growing skepticism about luxury pricing and origin claims that extends to timepieces. Another X-post advised, luxury brands like Gucci, Prada, and Louis Vuitton often use faux leather, sell at 30 to 40% margins, and manufacture in China. Chinese makers exposed this, suggesting a pattern of deception across luxury categories. On Reddit, discussions have been even more heated. Collectors who've spent decades building Rolex collections are questioning not just the value of their investments, but the authenticity of what they purchased. Some have expressed feeling betrayed and lied to by brands they've loyally supported for years. Watch forums and collector groups have split into factions. Some defend the brands, arguing that the final assembly and quality control in Switzerland are what truly matter. Others feel the entire luxury watch industry is built on misleading marketing and inflated prices, with little substance behind the prestige. However, some fans maintain perspective, acknowledging that manufacturing location doesn't necessarily determine quality. A Reddit user in r/malafashion advice stated, "China is a country of over 1 billion people. There are incredibly skilled craftspeople in China. Not everyone there is working in some kind of sweatshop, producing the lowest quality clothing you can possibly imagine." This more nuanced view suggests that while transparency is important, the craftsmanship of Chinese manufacturing shouldn't be automatically dismissed. Indeed, some watch enthusiasts have begun to embrace Chinese watchmaking openly, pointing to brands like Seagull that produce high-quality mechanical watches at a fraction of Swiss prices. This reflects a broader shift in perception of Chinese manufacturing, from cheap knockoffs to legitimate quality production. But for many Rolex owners, the emotional investment in the brand goes beyond the watch itself. They've bought into a story of heritage, tradition, and exclusivity. Finding out that story might be partially fictional creates a cognitive dissonance that's difficult to resolve. There's another possible explanation for the viral footage that must be considered. While genuine Rolex watches are not officially produced in China, counterfeits certainly are. According to Watch Reflect, the association of Rolex with China might stem from the counterfeit industry. China is notorious for producing fake luxury goods, and Rolex watches are one of the most counterfeited items. But it's crucial to remember that these are not genuine Rolex watches. This perspective suggests the viral videos might be showing counterfeit production that merely claims to be authentic Rolex manufacturing. The Watches of Espionage blog notes that counterfeit Rolexes are readily available from China, starting at around $450. The counterfeit industry has indeed grown extraordinarily sophisticated. Modern replicas are categorized from cheap tourist fakes, $50, $300, to high-quality super clones that can cost $450 or more. The highest tier replicas use Japanese Miyota movements and can be difficult to distinguish from genuine watches without expert examination. But this explanation has significant holes. It doesn't explain why luxury brands would be panicking about these videos if they merely showed counterfeit production. It also doesn't address the whistleblower testimony or the claims about components being made in China before final assembly in Switzerland. Furthermore, the viral videos specifically claim that authentic luxury goods and replicas come from the same production lines, suggesting a much more complex relationship between genuine and counterfeit than brands would like consumers to believe. This raises disturbing questions. Could some authorized watch components be made in the same facilities as counterfeits? Might gray market watches contain a mix of authentic and replica parts? The boundaries between genuine, gray market, and counterfeit could be far more blurred than the industry acknowledges. To fully understand this controversy, we need to consider the broader context of manufacturing globalization. China became the world's factory through a combination of economic reforms, low labor costs, and strategic government policies. Beginning with economic reforms in the late 1970s under Deng Xiaoping, China opened markets and encouraged foreign investment. Combined with a vast low-cost labor pool, Shanghai's minimum wage is about $370 monthly, far lower than in Western countries. This made China extraordinarily attractive for manufacturing. The country developed a networked system of suppliers and manufacturers, especially in cities like Shenzhen, supporting rapid production for brands across industries. Additionally, fewer regulations on safety and environment reduced costs, further incentivizing production shifts. When China joined the WTO in 2001, it accelerated its dominance in global manufacturing. Currency policies, including an allegedly undervalued yuan, estimated 30% in 2005, made Chinese goods even more competitively priced. Against this backdrop, luxury watch brands face a challenging dilemma. They can either maintain higher production costs by manufacturing exclusively in higher wage countries like Switzerland, or they can leverage global supply chains to reduce costs while maintaining the marketing narrative of European craftsmanship. The tension between production economics and marketing narratives creates a powerful incentive for exactly the kind of practices alleged in the viral videos. Maintain some production in Switzerland, especially high visibility operations like final assembly, while quietly shifting component manufacturing to lower cost locations. This isn't unique to watches. Across industries, from fashion to electronics, brands maintain their prestige by emphasizing design and quality control in prestigious locations, while conducting much of their actual manufacturing elsewhere. The difference is that most industries don't have legally protected designations like Swiss made that carry such powerful marketing value. The central question in this controversy revolves around what Swiss made actually means versus what consumers think it means. As we've learned, under Swiss law, a watch can be labeled Swiss made if 60% of the production cost occurs in Switzerland. This doesn't necessarily mean 60% of the physical watches made there, just just 60% of the cost.
So how do they get away with calling it Swiss-made if most of it is manufactured in China? Well, it's a little loophole where as long as 60% of the total cost of construction happens in Switzerland, they can call it Swiss-made. Almost all of the movement's the thing that makes this thing tick, is done in China, and then they'll take one component that might be a little bit more expensive.
This legal definition creates a gap between consumer expectations and reality. Most Rolex buyers likely assume their entire watch is crafted in Switzerland, not just the final assembly or certain components. The history of the Swiss-made designation reveals how it has evolved to accommodate industry needs. The current regulation, known as Swissness, was implemented in 2017 and actually represented a strengthening of previous rules. Before that, watches needed even less Swiss content to qualify for the label, but even the current 60% rule has significant flexibility. Because it's based on production costs rather than physical components, brands can manipulate where costs are allocated. Design, research and development, and certain high-value components can be assigned to Switzerland, while more labor-intensive manufacturing happens elsewhere. Similarly, in the luxury bag industry, labeling laws can create confusion. US and EU regulations around made in Italy or made in France require specific processes, but there's still room for global supply chains to play a significant role. As one Reddit discussion noted, because the luxury brands manufacture most of the items they sell you in China and then put finishing touches like buttons and the label on at another location, allowing for technically truthful but potentially misleading origin claims. This disconnect between legal compliance and consumer expectations creates the perfect conditions for disappointment and feelings of deception when the reality is exposed. The Rolex controversy is just one example of a larger trend shaking the foundations of the luxury goods industry. Chinese factories are flooding TikTok with videos exposing luxury goods manufacturing, challenging long-held narratives about exclusivity and craftsmanship. These revelations come at a particularly sensitive time.
Forget cryptic press releases. This saga is being told through bite-sized videos that pack a mighty punch.
More than 80% of the luxury bags in the world are made in China.
As trade tensions between China and Western countries have intensified, some analysts suggest the timing of these exposés is not coincidental, but rather a strategic response to tariffs and restrictions that have affected Chinese manufacturing. According to some reports, when Western brands tried to reduce Chinese manufacturing due to geopolitical pressures, they encountered significant challenges: inferior quality, slower production, and higher costs. This dependency on Chinese production capabilities gives manufacturers leverage that they appear increasingly willing to use. These revelations have sparked heated debates about value, authenticity, and transparency. If luxury products are substantially manufactured in the same locations as their much cheaper counterparts, what justifies their premium pricing? Some brands have responded defensively, maintaining that their products are made exclusively in Europe. Hermes, for example, insists its bags are crafted in French workshops by artisans who trained for years, with each bag authenticated with artisan codes. But with viral videos continuing to emerge, luxury brands face an unprecedented challenge to their carefully cultivated images. In an age of social media and global connectivity, maintaining manufacturing secrecy has become virtually impossible. The luxury industry has traditionally operated behind closed doors, with carefully controlled access and information. That era appears to be ending, as smartphones and social media democratize information about how luxury goods are actually made. As this controversy continues to unfold, luxury brands like Rolex face a critical choice: embrace transparency about their global supply chains or double down on traditional narratives. The evidence suggests that at least some components of luxury watches, even Rolex, may be manufactured in China before final assembly in Switzerland. While this doesn't necessarily mean the watches are of inferior quality, it raises important questions about pricing, value, and marketing authenticity. Brands that choose transparency face short-term challenges. Acknowledging global manufacturing could undermine the exclusivity and heritage narratives that command premium prices. But in the long term, rebuilding trust through honesty might be the only sustainable strategy in an era where secrets are increasingly difficult to keep. For consumers, the revelations offer an opportunity to make more informed purchasing decisions. As an ex-post advised, go custom made from trusted sources for real quality, suggesting alternative approaches to luxury consumption. Some watch enthusiasts are already shifting toward independent watchmakers who offer true transparency about their production methods and origins. Others are exploring value luxury brands that deliver similar quality without the inflated prices associated with traditional luxury names. The luxury industry is at a turning point. With trade wars and viral exposés, the traditional opacity of supply chains is crumbling. Brands that adapt with greater transparency may ultimately win consumer trust, while those that cling to outdated narratives risk being exposed. For now, the controversy continues to simmer, with fans, brands, and industry experts locked in heated debate about what Swiss-made truly means in today's globalized world. But one thing thing is certain, the luxury world will never be quite the same again. If you enjoyed this video and want more great content, don't forget to check out the recommended videos popping up on your screen.